Hi, my name is Kyle, and I'm going to be reviewing Moral Luck by Nagel. And before reviewing, I thought it'd be better if we started out with kind of a reintroduction with a thought experiment. Basically, a thought experiment is that there are these two drivers, and they leave a party, and both are equally very drunk. One leaves first, and a few minutes later, the second one leaves, and the first one makes it home relatively safely. Other than just being drunk and recklessly driving on the road, they end up home safely. And however, the second driver, as they're driving home a few minutes later, they encounter a child that just happened to walk unexpectedly out on the street. And because they were drunk and their um, reflexes were impaired, the car hits and kills the child. And this thought experiment is really here to ask the question of who deserves more blame, right? Is it the first driver who chose to drive home very drunk, or the second driver who also chose to drive home very drunk? However, the only real difference is they hit and killed a child with their car. And when you're talking about blame, you have to take into consideration the moral responsibility of each of the drivers based on their actions. And the moral responsibility is acts or states of affairs for which can be praised or blamed. And to put like I guess in layman terms, moral responsibility is basically just actions you can be either praised or blamed for. And moral responsibility acts in conjunction with the overall idea of ought implies can. You're only morally required to do things that you can actually do, that you're actually capable of doing. And this brings in the bigger idea of you're only um, you're only morally responsible for things that are within your control, things that you can actually control, things you can actually influence. And this is kind of the key to Nagel's argument with moral luck. Nagel kind of argues that uh, that that maybe we don't have as much control as we think that we do. Maybe we don't have as much control over our actions as we think we do, which kind of blurs the line of moral responsibility. And Nagel says that luck can play a role in four ways: either constitutive luck, circumstantial luck, constitutive and circumstantial luck working together, and consequent circumstances. So, constitutive luck is basically just luck that comes from your personality. It's basically who you are, the kind of person you are. For example, maybe you're more patient, or maybe you're more generous, or maybe you're judgmental, and maybe you're hateful. It's just the things that make you you based upon like how you were raised, and uh, yeah, basically based on like how you were kind of raised and the environmental maybe factors around you. Um, and this is very much against Kant because Kant only believes in the goodwill, and he believes that just the temperament and personality are kind of irrelevant under achieving the goodwill because he views them as only obstacles that you just need to get over to achieve the goodwill. But Nagel believes that their importance is greater than that. Nagel believes that their importance um, hammers in um, really hammers in the idea that maybe we're not in control as much as we think that we are. And next is circumstantial luck. And circumstantial luck is just basically problems and situations you face. And these situations, these circumstances, give you a chance to act, and they give you a chance to act in different ways depending on the circumstance, right? So for this example, I'm going to use a burning building example in which you either act heroically or cowardly, and kind of notice how the situation will change depending on the circumstance. Like notice how the action, the outcome will change depending on the circumstance of the situation. That makes sense. Burning building example. Imagine you're walking home one day, and as you're walking home down the street, you hear someone yelling for help. You rush over to see what's the problem, and then you see that the source of the screaming is coming from a burning building. And the heroic thing to do, maybe it would be, based on the situation, would be to run in and grab that person from the burning building and save their life. Or maybe in a different situation with most of the same factors, that you come across the same burning building because the same person is yelling help. But as you get there, you see this group of people already there, and maybe a big weight is lifted off your shoulder as you think, oh, these people got it. These people will help. So I don't need to be really morally responsible for this because these people will be morally responsible for it. So you act, cowardly, and you just wait and see how it plays out as a spectator and not, someone taking action. And right then and there, it's pretty clear, at least, it's pretty clear how situations and circumstances, like even subtle changes in them, can drastically change the outcome of the entire thing. Your actions could be completely different based on little changes to the situation. And Nagel says this is basically really just, you're up to the mercy of fate at this point. You don't have the say in which situation you're in. You're just up to the mercy of fate. And the third way that luck plays a role is with how constitutive luck and circumstantial luck work together in conjunction. So an example of this would be, imagine that during the time of Nazi Germany, someone lives in Argentina and is sympathetic towards the Nazi party. So they move back to Nazi Germany by their own choice. And for me, this really clears up their relationship because the constitutive luck is being played out with because they're sympathetic towards Nazi Germany. The Nazi party, Nazi Germany, all these. Yeah. Because it's just in their personality. It's the kind of person they are. Maybe they're a very sympathetic person that they just really, I don't know, maybe like can't even help it but to be sympathetic towards the Nazi party. And the circumstantial luck is that they live in Argentina, so they have motivation to move to Germany, to move to Germany to support the Nazi party. And Nagel goes on to say that these constitutive luck and circumstantial luck, and the reason why they're called luck is because much of it is outside of your control. You don't have control over the kind of person that you become, how you are raised. You just are raised. You don't have you don't have a say in it. You don't have control over that. So the kind of person you end up being is outside of your control. In circumstantial luck, like I said before, you don't have a say in the circumstances that you are put in. So both of these factors are drastically influencing, are greatly influencing your actions or the person's actions. And they're both pretty much based all out of your control. You don't have any control in the matter of any of these, or you barely have any control in the matter of any of these. So these just show how little control you might have over a situation. And finally, the fourth way the luck can play a role is consequent circumstances. Basically, this is just how your actions will end up turning out. And it's basically Nagel saying that consequences do matter. And this is very much against Kant, because Kant, again, only believes in the good or well. He only believes action is moral or unmoral or immoral based off of if you're acting in the goodwill or not. And he doesn't really believe in consequences. So some examples of this would be like maybe you have something in the best intentions and it ends up failing. Like maybe you are painstakingly and tediously planning out this birthday party, the surprise birthday party plan for your friend, and you plan every single second of it. But as the plan is in motion, everything starts to fail, and at the very end of the day, even though you painstakingly had the best intentions of it, had the best intentions of this being a really good surprise birthday party for your friend, it ends up failing. And maybe something looks like it should fail ends up succeeding. For example, maybe you have a science fair project that you're doing, and you wait till the very last minute, and you procrastinate, and within like between the last 2 hours that you have to turn it in, you finally start and finish a project, and you turn it in. In your mind, you're thinking, "There's no way I'm going to get 100. There's no way I'm going to get a good grade out of this. There's no way I'm going to get anything good out of this because it's trash because I procrastinated and turned it in late, or I turned it in with like very minimal effort." But as you get the paper back, as you get your project back, you realize you got a recognition from the teacher and you got full credit in the entire thing, which would be something that seems that appears like it should fail, but ends up succeeding. Just things just how it turns out through consequent circumstances. And finally, going looping back on this overarching idea of control, because of all these things, because how luck plays a role really, and how so much is outside of your control, does it make sense to praise or blame people like for their actions, or praise or blame like actions as themselves? Like, does the idea of praising and blaming make any sense? And Nagel goes on to say that like maybe actions are just events and people are just things, and maybe people as things are just being influenced by events and not the other way around. Maybe things aren't influencing events, but instead, yeah, events are influencing things, showing how little we control. And after that, the question really arises is that, are we morally responsible for anything? Because in conjunction with ought implies can, you're only morally responsible, morally required to do things that are inside of your control. But if nothing is in our control, are we either morally required or morally obligated or morally responsible for anything at this point? And he says it in like through this. Eventually, nothing remains which can be ascribed to the responsible self, and we are left with nothing but a portion of the larger sequence of events which can be deplored or celebrated, but not blamed or praised. And he finally ends the paper really saying that they're kind of, with the information we have right now, there really is no solution. But he says the more that we kind of look into it, the more that we start, the more we dive deeper, the more the conclusion seems to be that the solution is that we just don't have control. We just don't have that much control over our lives, and that and that we are just things being influenced by events. And in my mind, to make this easy, to make that point easier, I think of like a leaf blowing in the wind, right? The leaf doesn't have any influence on where it lands. The only thing really influencing the wind, no, the thing that's really only influencing the leaf is the wind. And I relate these two things back to having the wind as events and having the people as the leaf, like people thing as the leaf, and you're kind of just floating around, being influenced by the wind, but not having any influence on the wind, not having any influence on the events, but only the events are influencing the things. So yeah, it's basically moral luck in a nutshell.